Episode number 291, we talked understanding transportation contracts with John Oldfield. Now, the reason I thought this one was important is because John talked about, are you putting your company at risk by signing documents that you don't understand? And as drivers, a lot of times, we go pick up a load, we go do something like that. We're asked to sign a document. We may not really understand how that is affecting the company, and especially the company insurance. And John talks about that in that episode at length, and it's a really good episode that I think a lot of us, especially even not so much the drivers, but dispatchers who are maybe getting loads on behalf of the drivers, signing things off, especially at Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock on the last minute, and possibly putting the company at risk because they do not realize what they're doing. A transportation bill of lading is a contract, and when the carrier has the goods on their truck, they are liable, and they are the owner of those goods. So if somebody signs something and it goes against the insurance or changes the way things work without the approval of the finance company, legal department, whatever it is, you could be in real trouble. So I would say 291, Understanding Transportation Contracts with John Oldfield, should be the first on your list. In February, we go to, what do we go to in February? Hold on. I had it and I just lost it. So now I'm going to get it back. Okay, so in February, we did episode number 301. Now, 301 is about training and signing on with carriers. And I talked about what some of the issues are when you're signing on with a carrier that offers training as well, and whether that's a good idea to do so or not. You really need to watch what you're doing. It always sounds great, hey, we'll train you for free, just come here. But do you understand that you might be actually getting training that's subpar, that you have a commitment with that carrier, usually for a certain amount of time? Those are the type of things that you need to think about when you're looking at taking training on. So episode 301 is one that I would go back to, especially if you're a brand new driver or somebody that is looking to change carriers. I would go back to there and make sure you understand some of the pitfalls that could be there depending on who it is. In March, we talked with my friend Hillbilly Express. We talked with Joseph Graham. So Joseph was on episode number 302. There was a lot of good episodes in March, but we talked to Joseph about his life as a driver. And I think this is something that if you're not into trucking or you're new to trucking, that you may need to go and listen to this again, because we talked about the importance of starting at the bottom. We talked about the importance of learning from the people who have trained you and told you, and listening and all those kind of things. And Joseph is top in his industry. He hauls for a chemical company. He's also been very involved as far as he's got his own media company for the industry. And he's been on the show a couple times, but that is one episode that I think you should really go back and look at and listen to, and listen for what the advice he's giving you in that episode about how to be a professional driver. When we go into April, you'll go to episode number 316. Again, there was so many good episodes around that time, but episode number 316, we talked with Terry Lammers. Now, Terry Lammers is a business coach that also, his parents owned a trucking company. He took that trucking company from just a couple trucks, very small fleet, to a large fleet, and then sold it. And now he's in the business of helping people get their companies ready for sale. So maybe you don't want to sell your company. You're going, why should I listen to this episode? Well, this episode, we talked a lot about how to have profits in your business, how to operate so that you're profitable, and what to really look for as far as on your bottom line. So if you're an owner operator, episode 316 in April was a really strong episode that I would highly suggest that you go back and listen to. We focused it on owner operators, and I think that's something that's important to everybody. So make sure you go back and listen to that episode. In May, we had another great episode again. And in May, we talked about qualifying drivers. So this was taken from a presentation that it's part of the Hamilton Fleet Safety Council that I'm a part of. They have their annual spring seminar, and it was all on qualifying your drivers. and minimizing the risks. So it was taken from an operations standpoint, but for a driver, we talked about some of the risk management issues that, how can you be ready? How can you be a good driver, and what companies are looking for when they're hiring you on? So making sure that you have all the right criteria in place, make sure that you're somebody who is looking like you would be a good asset to a company, is really going to help you get a job. So we talked about that in episode number 324, which was in May of 2019. So certainly something to look into. In June, we were at episode number 334. Now, 334 was a good episode as far as... Now, we had a couple good episodes, and I'm going to mention episode 335 first, because this is one I have with David Benjacek about being a good driver. David's an actual speaker. He's actually a photographer for the industry as well. And we talked about what makes somebody good, because that's what his coaching is on. But that's not the episode I picked. And it's not because I don't like David. I think he's great. But I thought that it was more important for episode 334 because we talked about sleep apnea. And when you're talking about sleep apnea, that is something that can really determine whether you are safe on the road or not. And I thought that was an important episode that we had. We talked with Rob Pierce, who's with a sleep apnea CPAP clinic, which is a sleep apnea clinic in Mississauga, Ontario. And we talked to him about sleep apnea, the effects of sleep apnea, what people should look out for, what kind of testing you should possibly look into. So that was a really good episode that I think that drivers really, if you're tired all the time, then that's an episode that you really need to listen to. And that was in June of 2019. So we're halfway through. We are going to take a break here, my friends. And when we come back, we're going to continue on and take you all the way to the rest of the year. So stay tuned.